How's it going, my fellow Calfixians? Co-Oz Agent Ked is speaking, and this is a 5-minute review, more or less, of Battle Chasers Nightwar. Developers Airship Syndicate, publisher THQ Nordic, released on October 3rd of 2017. My first impressions of the game when I was playing it was really good. I had a unique art style for me, at least. It featured both like comic style 3D graphics of the heroes / story. It is a turn-based combat single player RPG game. Really fun to see when it came to the story or fighting enemies, choosing your skill and whatnot. Super fun. But what I noticed halfway through was when you're running around the dungeons, some of it was a roguelike, which at first thought was good and then decided at the end of the day that it was actually bad, because some of the side quests actually featured the whole roguelike element, where if it didn't appear at the time when you went into the dungeon, you were pretty much screwed, so you have to exit and then re-enter and just find the locations of these things. It was bad. It also had the exact same enemies over and over again with very little I don't know what the word is, but it did not feature that many unique enemies. It had like the spider, the slimes, the humans, the bats and whatnot, and then it just sort of rehashed it throughout the entire game, the entire way through, where, you know, a harder version is a different color. By the weaker ones are green, the harder ones are red, the much harder ones are black, or generally just giving them slightly different names but the exact same model. When it came to boss fights, I actually enjoy the boss fights a lot. Sometimes you were over leveling, I guess you can say, just by wanting to fight everything / find all the puzzles or side quests and whatnot, but when it came to actually fighting the bosses, it were always usually having some sort of trouble right up until the very last few bosses, where you were just smoking through the entire thing because of the amount of different things that the game allows you to do. The leveling system was fun, but when it came to actually finding equipment for your heroes, was not. I just sort of was using what they gave me, and then I just end up resorting to buying whatever's the best thing that the store was selling, because I kept gaining money but not actually spending it. So it's like, well, what's the point on the money then? So I just ended up buying whatever armor I actually ended up getting. And then even then, the new areas we were entering, gaining new armor was nowhere near as good as what you already had on, so that was a little bit weird. Also, lore, when it came to the lore of what it is you were doing or why you were doing it, there's a lot of scrolls that you can find, and yeah, at first I was basically reading them all because of, you know, just wanting to find out what was happening, but at the end of the day, I just gave up like halfway through, because even though reading, when it comes to trying to tell a story, is good for me, when there's just way too much of it, I just get really tired, especially when it features several pages of just reading one scroll and then finding out that there's 20 more that you also need to read in order to see what's happening, and then sometimes just using the exact same text or the exact same scrolls over and over again for whatever reason. It also had a text scrolling issue, so sometimes when you would want to read a scroll, the very top would be chopped off, so you would think a game that was released in 2017 and playing it at the end of 2018 that they would end up fixing it, but they never did. So overall, at first impression was really good, really fun, but at the end of the day, when it came to just trying to beat the game, to me it just seemed like it was a lot longer than it needed to be. There was too much text to read, the exact same enemies over and over again. You could argue something like Dragon Warrior, where they would also use the exact same enemies, just different colors, kind of like Battle Chasers, but my argument for that would be Dragon Warrior has been a thing since the NES, versus Battle Chaser that was a thing only in 2017, and not wanting to make, you know, its own, to become its own thing, it was just a little bit weird. Overall, I would suggest to play this game if it were to ever go on discount, but not necessarily full price, just because I don't know, like halfway through the game just became way too boring, way too much to read, way too many characters, or just in general not really knowing how to play the characters, especially so late into the game. So you would gain extra heroes as you played on, but at the end of the day, when it comes to these types of games, usually the first party that you have is the first party you just want to stick with. So it's fun, but not all that great. It took me about 34 hours to beat, but believe me, I was basically fighting myself to beat the game just because of how bored I was of playing the game. So yeah, even though it was unique and interesting at first, it wasn't at the very end. So with that, hope this review in some way helped. Hope to see you in the next one, and take care.